at the very least, right? Elena, appreciate it. Thank you. Joining me now to discuss, we have our panel here. So as we look at where things stand, the reality is it is not uncommon for leaders to maybe highlight different parts of a call. They want to bolster their own messaging. But the fact, Tiffany, that there is such a clear disconnect here, specifically on the border and what was said there, does that surprise you?
No, you look, Trump's tariff threats are a clear negotiating tactic, and it is how President Trump governs. That's why he was so successful in his first term. Since he has been elected, I think we also need to look at the EU, who is now considering switching their gas supply from Russia to the U.S. The president has had talks with Canada, very productive talks. They're looking for ways to work together. And as far as Mexico, 80% of Mexico's exports, 30% of Mexico's economy comes directly to the U.S. So President Trump clearly has the leverage in these negotiations. And Mexico's president, she knows that she has to work with President Trump. She really has no other option. And when I think specifically also on the issues of immigration, securing our border, tampering down the cartel and stopping the flow of drugs from coming across our southern border.
So it's interesting, though, because specifically what I'm talking about is the fact that it's clear. I think we have seen Donald Trump do this in the past. There's not a lot of pushback on whether or not this is a negotiation tactic. But the reality is he claims that the president of Mexico said she was going to shut the border. And she says, that never happened. I never said it. It ain't going to happen. The fact that there is so much daylight there, that doesn't surprise you?
Look, this is exactly what the American people are sick and tired of, this back and forth. President Trump is there to do a job. In fact, the American people sent a mandate out for him to go secure our border, use negotiating tactics to protect the American people. When the American people start to hear this, they tune out the media because they're focused. President Trump is focused on delivering results, and that is exactly why the American people elected him.
It's an interesting take, Julie, when you look at this, the fact that Scheinbaum is pushing back on Donald Trump's narrative and what he says happened in that meeting, making very clear where she stands. What do you think that says about the relationship between these two moving forward?
I think this is all just so much bluster on Donald Trump's part. Look, we've had 75% lower border crossings already this year, for which Donald Trump will take full credit on January 20th, despite the fact that you ran on some crazy unsecured border. The reality is the situation at the border has gotten better in the last year by leaps and bounds. That's one. Two, if you want to talk about retaliatory tactics, most of our fruits and veggies come from Mexico. 1 out of every 5 cars is made in Mexico. If we want to have these kinds of crazy tariffs on Mexico, Mexico could easily retaliate, but we export more to Mexico than we import. And the problem is that it's going to be the American worker who's going to be harmed. And Donald Trump knows that, and the people around Donald Trump know that. So he's going to go ahead and bluster, which is what he does best. He's going to go ahead and say that he threatened Mexico and that Mexico caved. But the reality is that there are already many, many, many fewer border crossings. And so he's going to just say, I threatened them, and that's why there's so many few border crossings on day one of my presidency. Of course, that's not the case. They've been going down all year. This is typical Trump. None of this is going to happen. As for, and let me just fact check one thing. Russia and the EU have not had the best of relationships in the last 4 years. So if you think that somehow Russia is supplying the EU with all of their energy after what's been happening the last couple of years, I think there's a lot of things that we have to go back and fact check about that fact. But of course, that's all going to change now that Trump and his best friend, Elon Musk, are back in power, and Vladimir Putin is going to start getting his way. Watch those sanctions evaporate and look for Russia to start exporting much more of its energy back into the United States and all around the world because of the leadership failure of Donald Trump.
Tiffany Smiley, Julie Roginski, I appreciate both joining us this afternoon. Thank you. Mother Nature's wicked plunge in temperatures this holiday weekend, not